Hey, what's up guys, Omogonix here and welcome to part 12 of my tutorial series where I teach you guys how to make a first-person horror game in Godot. So I do have quite a bit planned for this part. One thing which we're going to be doing later on is we're actually going to be making the model for the enemy AI, so I will be doing that in this part. But first off, what I want to do is I want to actually add the money into the safe that the player needs to take. And then once they take the money, then they can actually exit the house and get the game ending. So yeah, I'm going to be trying to do the game ending in this part. So yeah, if you guys do enjoy, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more. And without further ado, let's get right into it. So first off, what I want to do is I basically want to make like a money texture, you know, like a texture for money or something like that. So then we can actually stack it inside of the safe. You guys will see what my plan is, but anyways, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go open up paint.net, and I'm going to make my own like money note, my own basic money note, so I will go do that right now. Alrighty, so here I am in paint.net. You can use whatever program you want to make your money texture, if you are making money like I am, that is. Then what we're going to do, so I'm going to resize the image first of all, so then it's more in the size of money. So I might make this, the width maybe something like 500, and then we could make the height something like 250 and see how that looks. And yeah, I think that's a good size. So we're going to do 500 by 250. So what I'm going to do to start off is I'm going to like basically make this, you know, money a bit green. So we're just going to go paint that like that. And then I'm going to go get a shape. I think we'll use a rectangle shape. Turn up the brush size a bit so then it's a bit of a thicker shape. Then I'm going to get a darker green. And then we're going to use this as the outline for the money here. Just give it a bit of an outline. There we go. And then something else which I might like to do is I might like to use a circle. And then just put that in the middle like that. There we go. And then we can get a bit of text. Oh, we can get a bit of text. And then we can do like a $sign. And then we can just turn up the font size of this. There we go. And then what we can also do here as well is we can now do like how much money this actually is. So for this, these are going to be $100 notes. And I will give them like a bit of a bolder text as well. So yeah, these are $100 notes. We'll just have 100 at the top left and bottom right. And there we go. So there's going to be my simple banknote, my simple money note for the safe. So now I'm going to go save it into my game project as a PNG, and then I'll end up back in the game project. Alright guys, so I have now added the money into my textures folder in my game project. As you can see, here it is, money.png. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm actually going to be creating a new scene, a new 3D scene. I'm just going to call this money, and then I'm going to get out a cube. I want to get out a cube. Oh wait. That's right, I need to search up Mesh Instance 3D, and then we can get out a cube mesh by clicking on Mesh Empty, then going Box Mesh, there we go. I'm just going to turn on the lighting so we can see this better. And then we're going to go onto Geometry Material Override, we're going to create a new stand material 3D, and then we're going to find the money note. So I'm going to go Money, and there we go, there is the money. So the reason as to why I'm getting out a cube is because I want to basically, you know, have the money look like it's stacked. You guys will see what I'm doing. So I might do maybe a 10 by 5 or another 10. No? You guys will see what I'm trying to do. Alrighty. So as you can see here, I've basically got like, you know, a big stack of money now. Now of course we don't want the banknotes at the sides being like this. So I do have a bit of another plan for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to squash down the money a bunch, so then it's something like this, and then I'm actually going to duplicate the cube mesh, and then just squash it down a bit, and then pull it out to the sides a bit like this. So now I'm going to go into the material override here of this second cube which I've just made now, and I'm going to go right click, make unique on the material, and then with the UV scale, I'm going to scale it up a bunch on the y-axis. And the reason as to why is so then it makes it look a lot more squashed. So I might do like 80 on the y-axis. And as you can see now, it actually does look like proper stacked money. So yeah, this is going to be the money that goes into the safe that the player will be able to interact with. So I'm just going to save this into my scenery folder now. There we go. And boom. So now if we go into the house scene, just for now, let's go to the safe. So here is our safe right here. I'm going to add the money into this scene, and I want to see how the money fits in the safe. Alright, so there's our money stack. So we've got our stack of money. And now we're just going to put it in here. And there we go. Boom, so that actually fits perfectly. A lot better than I thought it would fit, but yeah, it fits. Alright, so now when you have your money in here, that is good to go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my money scene again, and I'm actually going to add a static body 3 to it for interaction. So I'm going to static body 3D, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this money. So it is important that you do call your static body 3D something that you can use in your player interact script, so then you can interact with it later on. You guys will see what I mean. So then we're going to add a collision shape as a child to the static body. New box shape 3D, there we go. And then I'm just going to scale this down to the size of the actual money. And there we go. Boom, just like that. Alright, so now that we have our money prepared, well, sort of prepared, there is still a bit of stuff to do, but one thing which I want to do first off, before we do continue on with the money, is I want to make the ending scene. So the ending scene is going to be pretty simple. It's just going to be like a text scene which pops up with a black background, and the text will fade in, basically saying like, oh, you escaped the house, blah blah blah. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do right now, before we do continue on with the money. So I'm going to go add a new scene. It'll be a user interface scene. And I'm going to call this ending. And now we're going to create a color rect background. Well, first off I'm going to do a canvas layer, but then we can do a color rect background. So then when you create a canvas layer, then color rect. I usually like doing canvas layers, but yeah. Alright, so alrighty, so now I've just stretched out my color rect. And then I'm going to make it black. There we go. And then I'm going to go add another child node to the canvas layer. It'll be a text, so a rich text label. And I want this text to be centered, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go BB code enabled on. And then what you can do is you can write center, and then that will actually center any text you write after that. So now I can just write, you know, literally anything, and as you can see the text is now centered. So if you've ever wondered how to center text in Godot, that's how. Alright, so I'm just going to put you escaped the house, and then I'm also going to turn up the text font as well, since it is kind of low right now, so I might turn it up to something like maybe 50. Yeah, there we go, that seems like a nice font. I mean a nice font size, I mean. Speaking of fonts, I'm pretty sure we do need to add in a few custom fonts later on, so then we're not just using the basic font, but this is fine for now. So we have you escaped the house, and we'll just have that up here. Actually, you know what, I'm thinking of just doing it in the middle, because what I was going to do is I was going to have you escape the house, and I was going to have like some text basically explaining like what happens to the player after escaping the house, like, you know, like, oh, the player escapes the house and they're traumatized forever from that experience or something like that. But instead I'm just going to do like you escape the house. And then we're also going to add an animation player to it as well. And then we're going to go click on animation, new, and then we're going to call this fade, because we're going to be fading the text. And so then we're going to grab our rich text label, and with this animation here, I'm probably going to make it like 5 seconds long or something like that. Alright, so now what you want to do is you want to go down to visibility, then with modulate here, you can just turn down the transparency so then it's all the way down. Create reset track, yes, because that's how we want the text to begin off. And then what will happen is after about a second of the scene loading in, so I'm going to set another keyframe here for after a second in, so then it's still transparent, but then after a second, what will happen is it will take a second for it to then go back to being white and no longer just fully transparent. So as you can see, for the first second of the animation, it stays transparent, but then it actually changes to white at the second. So I might have this text pop up for a number of seconds, then it will fade back out. So maybe at the 5-second mark, it will fade back out. So I'm going to make this animation 7 seconds long. And so the text is going to stay white for 3 seconds, so it's going to start at 2, and then all the way up until 5, it's going to be white, so for 3 seconds it'll be white, but then at the 7th second it's going to be fully faded out to transparent. So now let's just look at this animation. And boom, there you go. So as you can see, it says you escaped the house, and then it fades out. And now we can just save this scene here into our scenery folder. There we go. And boom. So now I'm going to create a new script for this ending scene. So I'm going to go onto the parent node and create a new script. So script empty, new script. I'm going to save the script into my general scripts folder. Create, there we go. So what we're going to start off by doing is we're going to start off by getting a bunch of the starter stuff here. We just want to have the ready function. And then we're going to do $animation player dot play fade. So then we're playing the fade animation. Now if I actually had a main menu, what I would do is I would actually create a timer. So then after a certain number of seconds of this scene playing, then what would happen is then our main menu would load. But since we don't have a main menu right now, what we're going to do is we're going to just make the game simply quit once we get the ending. So we're going to go down the line, we're going to write await get underscore tree dot create underscore timer, and I'm going to make this about 8 seconds long, since our fade animation is 7 seconds. So after about a second after that animation ends, that's when we'll actually quit the game. And I am going to do true for the timer just in case for whatever reason. You can do false if you want to, it's not really going to make a difference. I'm just doing true just in case. And then what we'll do is we'll then do get underscore tree dot quit, and boom, the game will then quit. So again, later on when we do create a main menu, I will be replacing this line with an actual line to load the main menu scene, but for now it's just going to stay the way it is. Alright, so now that we actually have our ending scene, what we should do now is we should actually probably create a trigger to actually make the ending scene happen. So basically what will happen is once our player picks up the money, so once they unlock the safe and pick up the money, that will then enable a trigger that our player can then enter out the front of the house to then exit the game. Well, to end the game, I mean, to be more exact. But yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go create a brand new scene. So we're going to create a new 3D scene. I'm going to change the type of this node 3D here to an area 3D. There we go. And I'm just going to call this ending trigger. In fact, you know what? Let's actually just call this trigger scene change trigger, because I want to teach you guys just how to make like a regular, trigger which changes scenes in general. So then you guys can use it for other purposes other than just ending your game. So I'm just going to save my scene for now, scene change trigger into the scenery folder. And then of course it's important that you do add a collision shape 3D to your area 3D. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to make it a box shape 3D. There we go. Alrighty, so now on my area 3D, I'm going to create a new script where it says script empty, new script. And just going to save this into my scripts folder. There we go, and boom. Alright, so I'm going to get rid of this stuff here, and we're going to create a new variable at export var scene underscore name. So this is going to be the name of the scene in which you want your scene to change to. So we're going to do a string, there we go, and boom. So at export var scene name string, so a string is just words, so you can just enter in whatever you want into this variable here. And since it's exportable, that means it's a public variable, so we can just change it as we wish to whatever we like in the actual scene it's in. So then we do func enter underscore trigger, and then body, so body will be whatever node enters the trigger. And do if body.name equals to player, then what will happen is we'll then do get underscore tree dot load, it's change underscore scene to file or change underscore scene to packed. Either one is fine. I usually use file most of the time, but you can also do change scene to packed and see how that works for you. And so what I'm going to do for the change scene to file is you now need to do your file path for the scene. Now what I usually recommend is that you save all your levels that you want your player to be able to trigger and change to. Make sure you save them all into the same folder, like a scenery folder or something like that, like with what I have in my project. Otherwise, if you don't, right, then what I recommend you do is for your scene name, then you can just enter in the actual file path that you can use for the actual loading the scene itself. So yeah, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do, in quotations, res ... then / scenery / and then I'm going to do plus scene _ name, so this is getting the scene's name, and then we do plus .tscn. And the reason as to why is because that is the file type for our scenes. So yeah, I do recommend that if you do this the exact same way I'm doing it, make sure that all your scenes are saved into the same folder. Any level that you want your player to be able to load into, make sure they're all in the same folder. Otherwise, if they're not, instead of just typing in the scene name, what you can do is you can just have, scene name be what the file changes to in general, and then for the scene name you can just enter in the file path, whether it's something like res ... / scenery and then ending.tscn. You can just do the file path if you want to as the scene name itself, and then you can just do change _ scene to file scene name instead of doing this. But yeah. Alright, so what else I'm going to do as well for the scene change trigger is I am going to disable the collision shape since we don't want this to be enabled at first. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my level scene, and then we're going to go at the front of the house, and we're actually going to now place the ending trigger into my level scene. So I'm going to call this, wait no, so we need to get out our scene change trigger, there we go. Alright, so now we have our scene change trigger, and I'm going to put this near the front door here to the backyard or front yard, so then the player can actually escape. So once they enter this trigger, they will be escaping. Alrighty, so there's the trigger. It's just a square placed in front of the door there. And then I'm going to call this ending. That's what I'm going to call the scene name, because that's the scene that we want to load into, is this ending scene here. So yeah. So once you have that set up, what I'm going to do now is I'm now going to go back into my money scene, and we're going to create a new script for the money. I'm going to go script, general scripts, money.gd, there we go, create, and boom. So now I'm going to create a new function. I'm going to call this func interact, because this is what's going to happen when the player interacts with the money. So I'm going to go func interact, and then we're going to do something else which we'll need to do as well. So I'm in my door scene right now. What I'm doing is I'm going to grab this line here, which grabs our player's UI. And the reason as to why is because we're going to be setting the player's task. So when we do func interact, we're going to make sure that we have our player UI as a variable. So we're going to do UI.set _ task, and then we're going to do escape the house. So once the player picks up the money, then they will escape the house. And then also what we're going to do is we're going to do get _ tree dot current _ scene dot get _ node, and then you want to get your scene change trigger, so you just want to enter in the name of that. So I'm going to do scene _ change _ trigger, since that's the name of my scene change trigger. Oh, and I also forgot as well, then we need to do / collision shape 3D. So we're grabbing the collision shape of the area 3D of our scene change trigger. And then we do .disabled = false, so then our player can actually enter the trigger and it's no longer disabled. And then lastly, we're then going to do Q _ free for the money once it has been picked up. And so yeah, that there is all our stuff there for the money interaction. So once the player interacts with the money, we'll set a new task to escape the house. Then the scene change trigger will be enabled, so it'll no longer be disabled. And then we will queue free the money, meaning that it will be deleted from the scene once it's been picked up. So yeah. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into our player interaction trigger here, script. And then I'm just going to copy just this whole thing here for the key, paste it underneath. And then we're going to change else if hit.name = to key, we're going to change this to money. And then we'll have the crosshair line still like that. and then we're going to change hit.pickupKey to hit.get_parent.interact. And the reason as to why we're getting the parent is because our collider that will be hit when our raycast hits the money, it will be the static body 3D. So that's what hit will equal to, is it will equal to the static body 3D. Then what will happen is then we will then get our parent, which actually has our interact function on it, and then that's how we make our interact function happen on our money. And boom. Alright, so I think we should probably be ready to actually test out the money and see how it all works. Hopefully everything does work right. Okay, so I just realized something. Because our safe's collision shape is just a whole cube, that means that literally if there's anything inside of it, we can't actually fully interact with it, you know? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to push back the safe interaction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push back the safe collider a bit, so maybe something like halfway. Now let me just go into my my house scene here. I just want to check something. So now I think the money should be able to be interacted with, because we've pushed back the collision shape of the safe a bit. So now I think that the collision shape for the money should be able to be interacted with, hopefully. That's what I'm hoping at least. But yeah, because otherwise we might need to do some more changes. But anyways, let's get back to it. Alright guys, so one important thing which I actually forgot to tell you guys before we end up testing out is I forgot to make sure that we end up connecting our enter trigger function to the actual signal on our area 3D, which actually makes the trigger happen. So go to so click on your area 3D, go to node, body entered, and then you just want to place in, you just want to double click on body entered, then you just want to type in enter trigger, enter_trigger, and there we go. So now when you have the green icon next to your function, you'll know that it's all properly connected up, and then we can actually go test and make sure it all works. Oh, there it is. Alright, so 2361 is the safe code. So now we're just going to go down here, then we're going to go interact with the safe, 2361, confirm, and there we go. So now we can just go grab the money, just like this, and boom. And now we can just exit the house. And now, boom, the game ends, and we get you escape the house, as you can see. So yeah, we've actually added a little ending to the game now, so now the game is actually finishable. Alright guys, so here I am in Blender, because now I am going to make the model for our enemy AI. So for this tutorial, I'm going to be keeping the enemy model simple, and I won't be rigging it either, since I'm going to be making the model in a way in which we won't need to rig it. If you want to rig your model, you can use mixamo.com if you want to, or you could probably even watch a tutorial on how to rig your own models in Blender, so then you don't need to rely on, you know, other sources like Mixamo. But yeah, for this tutorial, I'm not going to be making a model that is going to be rigged. It is going to be a model which is going to be made in a way so then we don't need to rig it. But anyways, let's go add mesh, and then we're going to add a UV sphere. Now of course you can make your model however you like, but I'm just going to be making the model a certain way. So with this model, it's not going to have any legs, it's going to have like a long sort of like gown or robe, I guess you could say, which would go over its legs. So this is going to be the body of the enemy. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to switch over to the sculpt mode now. And then I'm actually going to click onto this little tool icon here. And then I'm going to go down to symmetry, and I'm going to make I think it's the X and Z. Wait, no, the X and Y. Yeah, the X and Y are going to be mirrored as I start to sculpt. So let's go. So what I'm sculpting at the moment is I'm sculpting like the bottom of the gown, or the robe, whatever you want to call it, that this character is going to wear. Alrighty, so that there is going to be like the base of the gown, I guess you could say. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go object mode again. And now I'm actually going to copy this gown. I'm going to go Control-C, Control-V, because I'm going to also use these as the arms. So now I'm just going to switch over to the scale tool, then I'm going to scale it down. And so this is going to be part 1 of the arm, and then I'm going to do a second part to the arm as well. Alrighty, so there's one, and now I'm going to Control C, Control V this again, and this is going to be the second part of the arm. So basically the top part of the arm is like the upper arm, and then this is like the lower arm. And basically it's almost like the character's going to have like, you know, 2 different layers of long clothing on. They've got like this gown here with this sleeve, and then they've got something underneath the other sleeve as well. So that's why you know, these 2 arm pieces look the way they do, because it's meant to be like as if the character is wearing layered clothing. I'm going to make the arm a bit longer as well, since it is a bit short. There we go, I think that looks quite alright now. Alright, so another thing which I'm going to do is I'm going to do a hand for the model. Now I'm not going to be doing a proper hand, you guys will see what I'm doing. I'm just going to do like a sphere. So just gonna scale it down like that. There we go. And then here is our character's hand. So yeah, it's just gonna be simply a sphere. But then what I'm gonna do with this sphere is I'm actually going to cut into it. So wait, one thing which I want to do first off actually is I want to make sure that this is all rotated almost straight like this, so then it's more of like a T-pose. There we go. There we go, I think that looks better. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy this sphere now and then paste it. And then we're actually going to cut inside of it, and we're going to make like a Lego shape hand. So I'm going to make like a Lego shape hand for this character. You guys can make more proper hands if you want to, but I'm just doing a Lego hand for this tutorial. Alrighty, so we've got our sphere here, and then once you select your sphere, which is going inside of your hand, you then select your hand afterwards, which is the other sphere. Click the little drop down arrow, go down to edit, boolean, difference, and boom. So now we actually have like a Lego hand for our character. Now I do need to move this forward a bit, since as you can see the mesh here was showing through. But now we have a hand for our character. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go select all these, Control C, Control V, and then I'm going to right click, and then we're going to go mirror, X global. So now as you can see, we have now copied and pasted the arm pieces, and we've mirrored them so then they're flipped onto the other side. Now one thing which we do need to do is we do need to then change the actual scaling of the arms, of the arm pieces, because something which you'll notice when you mirror objects in Blender is the scale of whatever you mirrored them on. So if you mirrored them on the x-axis, for example, you'll notice that the x scale is negative, and this is definitely not good for your lighting, since it can make lighting in your game look really bad on the model if you have negative scaling. So you want to make sure that the scaling is positive. Now when I just scaled positively for the hand there, it just flipped it, so if you do have that happen to you as well, you can just simply rotate that hand by 180 degrees on the z-axis in Blender, and boom, now it is all proper. Alright, so now we're going to do the head for our character. So we've done our body. As you can see, he's got the gown, and then he's got his 2 arm pieces here, which basically show that he's wearing multiple layers of clothing. And then we've also got our character's little Lego-like hands as well. So now what we're going to do is we are going to do the head. So what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to go add mesh, and then we're going to do a UV sphere. So I was thinking at first that we could probably do a head similar to Poe from my game The Funnel Tunnel, if you've ever seen that before. If you haven't, you can check it out on my itch.io page. But I was thinking I could do maybe a head similar to that perhaps, or something else. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Actually, no, you know what, I've got a pretty good idea. So if you've seen my game Joining the Council before, I think that's the first game of mine where I showed off that, you know, that weird alien design of mine and I've used it in a few of my other games since. Even in Acerbis Delucolo, the gas masks that are worn in that game are inspired by those aliens which I made for joining the council back in 2021. So what I'm thinking is that I do a mask similar to that for this enemy here. So let's go ahead. So I've got my sphere. There's not really much else that I need to do here in terms of, shaping this sphere. I might just, scale it down a bit like that. And yeah, so that's going to be the head shape. So now I'm going to go add mesh, and we're going to add a cylinder mesh. And now I'm just going to position this up here, rotate it, and then scale it down. So just scale it down like this. There we go. Also, I'm gonna switch it to local scaling so then I can actually scale it more properly. There we go. Alright, so now I'm just gonna position this over here, sort of like a gas mask type thing. There we go. In fact, we'll probably make this a bit thicker here. Alrighty, so now what I'm going to do is I'm now going to duplicate this, so Control-C, Control-V, paste it over here, and then just move it down, just like that. There we go, and then we can just move it in a bit, and boom, there we go. And then we can then Control-C, Control-V again, and then what I'm going to do is I'm then going to go to the Object tab here, and then where it has our position X, I'm now going to just make this a negative, and then boom, now it is perfectly mirrored with the other cylinder. Also, I just saved my monster underscore enemy.blend as I called it. I saved my enemy model just before. Make sure you do save your models as you do make them as blend files when you're working in Blender, so then in case your PC crashes or Blender crashes, then you can easily go back to it and you don't have to worry about losing all your progress. So now that we've got the cylinders here, I'm now going to then Control-C, Control-V to head, and these are going to be our eyes. So we're going to be using this copied head now as an eye. So we're just going to scale it down. Sort of reminds me of like the elite soldiers from Half-Life 2 now. But yeah, so now let's just move the eye over here, because he's going to have two eyes. Boom, one like that. Actually, maybe move it out a bit more forward. Looks a bit derpy at the moment in my opinion. Maybe the eyes should be a bit bigger. Yeah, maybe something like that. And then we can Control-C, Control-V again. And then we can just make the X coordinate a negative, and then boom. So there is our enemy with his eyes. These big bug eyes. So what I'm going to do also is I'm going to actually Control-C, Control-V the cylinders here. So I'm just going to do one at a time. But I'm going to then scale them downwards, because we are actually going to create holes inside of these gas mask cylinder thingies. Just going to switch this to local positioning. There we go. And yeah, we're just going to add some holes inside of here. Control-C, Control-V, move that over here. So now I'm just going to go select the smaller cylinder, then the bigger one, difference, apply all cutters, and boom. Then I'm going to do the same thing with these ones here, and boom, there we go. So now the gas mask cylinder thingies now have holes in them. Alright, so one last thing that I want to do for this model is I want to actually add like a hood for it, so then it's almost like they're wearing a hood. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go add yet another UV sphere, and then I'm then going to place it over like this, and we'll make it smaller too. So now what I'm going to do is I'm then going to go Control-C, Control-V the sphere, then we're just going to put it over here, just a bit over here like this, then I'm going to select this sphere, then the back sphere, difference, and boom, now we've got like a hood shape. There we go. So then we can just position this how we like, and boom, now we actually have a hood for our enemy to wear. And there we go. Alright guys, so that there is going to be the enemy model. what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to smooth out the model pieces. So I'm going to go right click, shade smooth, and boom. Now as you can see, it actually smooths out the pieces of the model. Now with the Lego hands, instead of doing shade smooth, I recommend doing auto smooth since it smooths it more correctly. So that's what I'm going to do here. Also with the hood as well, I recommend doing shade auto smooth instead of shade smooth as well. And then same thing with the cylinders here, just do them as shade auto smooth. But then you can do the regular spheres as shade smooth. And there we go. So that there is our model all prepared. Alright, so before we export this model to our Godot project, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add some basic materials so we can sort of get an idea of what we're going to do for the enemy's materials when we eventually add it into Godot. So with the coat here, for example, if you look at your right, like inspector sort of menu here to the right, if you click onto this little tab down here, the material tab, you can then plus a new material on. And you can change the color of it. Now you'll notice at first that there is no changes, but that's because you need to actually change your shading modes. So if you change to viewport shading, like this little option here, as you can see, you can now actually see the colors. So with this color, I'm thinking of doing it something like maybe like a navy blue or a darker blue, maybe even something more brown. Yeah, I think we'll do like a reddish brown perhaps. Actually, I think the darker blue does look a bit better, so we'll go with that. And then I'm actually just then going to apply that same material by clicking on this browse material to be linked little button here. And then you can just click the material that you just created and you can add that to your other pieces as well. Just like this. So any piece that I want to have this material, I'm just going to add to it. And boom, there we go. So that there is going to be the material which we will use for the enemy's coat or cloak or whatever you want to call it. So for the hands, I think I'm going to do something black. So I'm going to add like a new material, then change the base color to black, and then we'll apply that to the other hand here as well. And then I'll do the same thing with the eyes. We'll actually know they're going to have a different sort of material. So let's just add a new material for them. And we'll make them like blue, but like this sort of thing, like that kind of blue there. And don't worry, we'll be adding proper textures onto these materials as well. This is just getting us started for now. And then with the mask here itself, I'm thinking of doing something grey. Something a bit greyish blue, perhaps like this. Yeah, I think that looks good. I think blue will be the overall theming for this character overall. And also, why not add some metallicness to the material as well? Just then we can sort of get an idea of how it's going to look metallic. With the eyes, we can turn down the roughness a bunch. Maybe to something like 0.1. And yeah, you can actually see like the reflection in the eyes now. With the cloak, we can turn up the roughness all the way, since that's going to be rough. And then same thing here with the hands, since they're going to be like gloves, and boom. So that there is sort of like the base material for our enemy now. They're like the base materials for our enemy. And now we're ready to export it to Godot. So when exporting a model, as always, you go File, Export, and then you want to export as a GLB into your Godot folder. Also, one thing I want to mention as well is sometimes when I'm exporting GLB models, depending on what they are, sometimes I like to go into the Mesh tab here and click Apply Modifiers. Because one thing which I've noticed is, let's say for example I use the Decimate modifier or the Subdivision modifier to like add or decrease quality onto a model. Sometimes I find that those changes aren't made if I don't click Apply Modifiers, so be sure to do that if you are someone who has like lowered the poly count of your model, or if you've raised it or something like that using the decimator, using the decimate or subdivision modifier. But yeah, so then we just go export GLTF 2.0. Alrighty guys, so I exported my model into my folder as you can see here. So here is my model now in Godot. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to go right click onto the GLB file of the model, and I'm going to go new inherited scene, and boom, now we have a new inherited scene for the model. So it does look already pretty good even with just the base materials, but we are going to be applying some proper textures to these materials so then our enemy does look more proper. So I'm just going to go save, going to save it into my scenery folder here, and boom, there we go. And then another thing which is important too that I like to do with my GLB models is I like to go right click and then clear inheritance, so then they are no longer inherited from the GLB model and they're just their own thing now. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click onto this part of the enemy here, and I'm going to go inside of the mesh, because inside of the mesh is where we have our material for the overall, the coat here, or the cloak, again, whatever you want to call it, this robe that our character is wearing. So if we go texture, and then I was to, let's say for example, add on the carpet texture, as you can see, that texture is now applied onto the whole model now that has that material applied onto it. So because all these other parts here, like the arms and the hood, because they had that same material as well, that texture has now been applied to their materials too. So now let's actually go add a normal map. I want to see how a normal map looks with this. So a carpet normal map, and boom, there we go. And that actually looks really, really good. I don't know if we're going to need to turn down the strength of it. I mean, we can leave it at 1 for now. But yeah, no, this looks pretty neat so far, I must say. The only thing which I don't like, of course, is the seams. But again, this is mainly just a tutorial, so it doesn't really bother me that much. Later on, though, I might even, replace this carpet texture with a normal map. I mean, with a noise texture, who knows? Because it just depends on how I feel. But anyways, now that we've got our cloak applied, our cloak material applied properly, now let's go to the gloves here. So I'm going to do the same thing with the gloves. I'm going to go into the mesh, surface 0, material, and then I'm going to then add the carpet texture. There we go, carpet. Now right now it's just completely black. So if you do notice that, what you want to do is you just want to go to the albedo here. Then you just want to turn up your albedo color a bit, so it's a bit more grey, and then as you can see, you can actually see the carpet texture popping through. And then we can actually go normal map, and then apply the carpet normal map as well onto these gloves. And there we go, now we have some proper gloves applied. Alright, so we've got proper texture onto our gloves and our cloak. Now we're going to be doing the mask, so we're going to go into the mask here. Mesh, surface 0. And then with this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try adding that concrete material, or whatever I called it. I think I might have called it stone. Yeah, I did, I called it stone. So this looks alright. I mean, you can't even see any, well, actually no, you can see seams up here. Alright, I'm thinking instead with this, we actually just use a noise texture for the albedo. So I'm going to go make a new noise texture, new fast noise light, there we go. Alright, and then we're going to make it seamless. Boom, that's a lot better. And then I'm actually going to turn down the width and height of this texture since it doesn't need to be so high. So yeah, something like that seems alright. Then we can just add a color ramp and then change up the color ramp here to a bit more of a grayer thingy. And there we go, that texturing looks a lot better now. See how it looks turning up the frequency as well? Yeah, I think we'll keep it like that. Alright, so now let's actually create a normal map for this. So we'll go do the same thing. We'll make a noise texture normal map. Noise texture 2D. Then as normal, set the width and height to 256 by 256. Create new fast noise light, and there we go. Also make it seamless, of course. And boom. Can't forget to turn up the frequency as well. And there we go. Looking good. Turn down the bump strength, and boom. Alright, so now we have a proper material for our gas mask, our cloak, and our gloves. I think this is it. I think this is how our character is going to look. Alright, so now that we've got our model done, we can actually start basically preparing it for animations and stuff. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm now going to attach each body part basically to a node, so then we can use them as like hinges for the player, for the enemy, So as an example, what I'm going to do first off is I'm going to create a hinge for the head. So I'm going to click on my monster enemy parent node, go add child node, so right click, add child node. Then I'm going to add a node 3D. Then I'm going to move this node 3D up towards the head, near the bottom of the head, so just about here. And then I'm going to rename this node 3D to head. There we go. And I'm going to select each part of the head, so that includes the main head itself, the eyes, the cylinder pieces, and then the hood. So we're going to grab all this and we're going to make it a child node of the head hinge. And there we go. So now this is going to be how we actually like move our player's head. So essentially what we're doing with these node 3Ds, which we're using as hinges for the body parts, is this is kind of like our form of rigging for this character. So the way I've made this character with all the separate parts is so then it allows me to then add these node 3Ds as like hinges, and this is what I do for a lot of the models in my games. Alright, so now that we've got a hinge for our head, let's now do one for our arm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the parent node of the enemy again, and then I'm going to go add child node, node 3D, and now I'm going to move this node here towards the end of our upper arm here, and then I'm actually going to call this upper and then underscore R underscore arm. So what this means is upper underscore right underscore arm, so R is just short for right, so it's the upper right arm. And then we're just going to then select all these hinges here and then make them a child of the upper right arm. And then as a child of the upper right arm, I'm going to add another node 3D, so I'm going to right click onto the upper right arm, add child node, node 3D, and then we're just going to move this over here to this part at the lower arm, and I'm going to call this lower underscore arm. So with this node 3D, we don't need to call it lower right arm because it's already a child of the upper right arm, so we don't need to add right into the name of lower arm, so yeah. And then what I'm going to do is I'm then going to select these two pieces here of the lower arm, make them children here of the lower arm node, and then as you can see, I can now rotate the lower arm. So we've got a hinge for the lower arm now. And then we can also rotate the upper arm as well. So yeah, so now the lower arm and upper arm for the right arm are completely rotatable. As you can see, I've now rotated the upper arm to be facing down with the lower arm facing a bit more down. So yeah, we can do that now. If you had legs for your character, you would do the exact same things for your legs as well. So you would create your upper leg node and then your lower leg node. For this character, I don't have any legs, so I won't need to do any of that. But if you do, I do definitely recommend that. And so now we're going to do the exact same thing for the left arm as well. So again, child node to the parent object of our enemy, node 3D. There we go. And then we're going to then move this up towards the end of the upper left arm here. There we go. And then we're going to call this upper underscore L underscore arm, L meaning left. And then we're just going to select all these nodes and then make them a children of the upper left arm, create a new child of the upper left arm, node 3D, move that over here, and then this is going to be the lower arm for the upper left arm, so we're just going to call this lower underscore arm again, select these two pieces right here, make them a children of the lower arm, and there we go, and boom. So now if I rotate this upper left arm down, as you can see it rotates properly, and then we can just rotate the lower arm hinge like this. So yeah, this is definitely an easy way of rigging models in Godot. I mean rigging in terms of like quote-unquote rigging, because obviously it's not proper rigging, but it is definitely a way to simply rig your characters if you don't want to actually go through proper rigging itself. So yeah, we have our character all ready to use, we have our head and our arms. Now when it comes to the body, you don't really need to do a node for the body, although you can if you want to. So what you might want to do, for example, is you might want to get your you might want to right click onto your parent object, add child node, node 3D, and then you want to place it sort of around the same part as the head, so just about here. So then we can create a hinge for the body, so then we can just call this node 3D body, make the body parts, a child of the body, and then now we've got a hinge for the body as well, so then we can rotate the body as we need to. So yeah. What you might also want to do as well is you might even want to make your arms a child of the body. You can do that if you want to. So yeah, now our enemy is pretty much ready to use and to animate, because that's what we're going to be doing now, is we are going to be making animations for the enemy. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we are going to click onto our parent node of the monster enemy model, add child node, and then we're going to do animation player, so then we can actually create animations for our enemy. So the first animation I'm going to make is an idle animation. So this will just be for when the enemy is standing still. So I'm just going to call this idle, and there we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set reset tracks for almost all the nodes we have here. So for the head, body, upper arm, upper left arm, and the lower arms, I'm going to be doing reset tracks for them. So I do recommend that you do that for all the parts of your character's body too. So I'm going to go set reset tracks for the head, body, all that sort of stuff. So what I'm going to do, so click on one of your body parts first, so the head for example. And once you've got your animation player created and your animation created, now you should have keys next to your properties on your inspector menu here for whatever node you've got selected. Then you can just select the keyframe for the rotation, for example. So I'm just going to be setting the reset tracks for the rotation, since I don't plan to change the positions of the body parts at all. I only plan to change the rotation, so I'm only going to be adding animations to the rotations. So then we go create, and boom, so now I've got a reset track created for the rotation of the head, and then I'm going to do the same thing for the rotation of the body and arms as well. So just like this. And there we go. And boom, so now whenever we go into the idle animation, it will now reset to being these animations. What you might also want to do as well is you might want to change the interpolation mode of your animation tracks. So I usually like to change it to cubic when I'm doing character animations. Alright, so for this idle animation, I think I'm going to do 2 seconds long, just to test it out. And I'm going to go to the 1 second mark, and now I'm going to make some little changes here. So first off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually grab the head of our AI, and I'm going to do a bit of animating with this. So what I think I'm going to do with the head is I'm actually at the 0.5 second mark. We're going to have the enemy like sort of look a bit to the left, to their left, just like that. And then we'll then keyframe the head rotation. So now as you can see, we've now got an animation for the head slightly turning left. Then at the 1 second mark, I'm now going to do another rotation where he's then looking right. So basically for the idle animation, the enemy's going to look around a bit. Also be sure to set the loop mode of your idle animation so then it's looping. Once it goes blue, once this little logo goes blue, that's when you know it's looping. You just want to left click on it once, and then boom, it should have this. Alright, so then we're going to go to the 1.5 second mark. And finally for this, I'm going to make it so then the AI looks to the left again. And then at the end, they should then turn back to looking towards the middle if you've got the animation loop mode set to looping. So now let's look at the head. So that is a bit fast right now, honestly. I think I'm going to slow down the idle animation maybe to 4 seconds. I think that might be better. So let's just extend out these animation bits now. If you ever want to move anything around, you can just hold left click and then move it just like how I am here, so then you can move around your keyframes of your animation. And now the player's head the enemy's head is rotating a bit more slowly. So then the player's head doesn't look so stiff looking left and right. I might actually add a bit more variety to it as well. So with the head, I might even, rotate. I'm gonna use the local space for this so then I can rotate it locally. But I'm also going to make the head a bit like angled like this as well, just so then it looks a bit more, you know, more fluid, and it looks less stiff, you know what I mean? Do the same thing here. Oh, I didn't get time to set that just then. There we go. Just set that here. Set the keyframe again, and there we go. Alright, so yeah, now this is the head animation, so it does look a bunch more smoother now. It looks, you know, less stiff. So now we are going to be doing the animation for the arms as well. So for our arms, I'm going to select the upper left arm. I'm going to go to the 2-second mark, and I'm just going to make the arm just go out a bit like this, and then I'm also going to push it forward a bit like this too. Then we're just going to set the keyframe, and now as you can see, our upper arm moves slightly like that. And then because we've got it looping, it then goes back to its original position at the end of the animation, so then it can actually start off back to what it was again. Another thing I'm going to do is I am going to manipulate the lower arm as well, so I'm actually going to rotate this inwards like this, just like that. And now that is our left arm animation done for the idle animation. So as you can see, our left arm is just, you know, moving up and down. Alrighty, so now what we're going to do is we're now going to do the right arm. So upper right arm, again we're going to move it out a bit, so I'm going to go 2-second mark, move it out a bit, move it forwards a bit as well. Then we're going to set the keyframe for the animation, then we're going to grab the lower arm, move that in a bit, set the keyframe, and here we are. So that there is now our character's idle animation right now. So as you can see, our arms, they're like, you know, moving up a bit. One thing which I also noticed is how the lower arms, like the top of the lower arms, pops out through the upper arms a bit. We can fix that up later on. Right now it's fine though. Something which I might do as well is I might do some little slight rotations to like the body of the enemy. So I'm going to grab like the body itself, I mean the mesh of the body, so the sphere mesh here. And then I'm going to wait, no, I just forgot, I haven't set a reset track for this yet, so I'm going to have to set a reset track quickly for the rotation of the sphere. There we go, just at the start of the animation. And I'm going to go to the 1-second mark, and I'm going to rotate this body mesh a bit, sort of to match with the head, kind of, you know, with how the head's rotating. So I'm going to rotate this a bit to the left here, set the keyframe, then at the 2-second mark, we then rotate it a bit this way, set the keyframe, and then at the 3-second mark, just like that. And then it resets at the 4th second. Okay, so now let's see how this looks. Alright, yeah, I think this looks a bunch better now. Like, it looks so much more fluid. Alright, let me just set the interpolation mode for the sphere here to cubic. And now let's actually give this a bit of a watch. Also turn off the grid as well. Alright, so yeah, this idle animation is looking pretty neat at the moment. It looks very smooth. I think that, you know, it looks very fluid. It doesn't look very stiff. It looks nice. So yeah, this is going to be the idle animation for our enemy. Alright guys, so now that we've got our idle animation done, let's actually now get on to making our walk animation. So for the walk animation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my reset track here, and then I'm going to go animation, duplicate, and I'm going to duplicate my reset track. Now the reason as to why I'm duplicating my reset track is because the reset track already has all the nodes, tracks set that we need. So every node that we need to animate, its track is already set in the reset track. So by duplicating the reset animation, we already have a good template for our new walk animation. So yeah. So now with our duplicated animation name, I'm just going to call it walk, and then click on OK, and boom. So now we have a duplicated animation with all the tracks already set. So with this walk animation, I'm going to focus on the arms first. So at the start of the animation, we're going to have the upper right arm sort of just a bit forward like this. And then we're also going to have the lower arm a bit rotated up like this. There we go. And then we're just going to set the rotation of the lower arm and the upper arm. There we go. And then we're going to do the same thing with the left arm as well. So I'm going to move it backwards this time. Set the rotation. Then we go lower arm. Move this forwards a bit. Set the rotation. And there we go. So the left arm's going back a bit and the right arm's going forward. This is going to be like the start of our walking animation. Another thing which I'm going to do as well is I'm actually going to extend out this animation to about 2 seconds. And also don't forget to set the loop mode and also the interpolation modes of your animation tracks as well. I'm going to do that quickly before I continue on with the animation. Alright, so now we have our interpolation mode set. So what we're going to do now is we are now going to go to the 1 second mark of the animation. I'm going to go grab my upper right arm and now I'm going to move it back so then it's sort of like how the left arm is right now. So I'm going to rotate my upper right arm backwards, so something like this. And then we can keep the lower arm rotation the way it is, or you can change it if you want to as well. And then with the left arm here, I'm then going to rotate this forwards, so just like this. And then I'm going to leave the lower arm the way it is for the left, since I think it's fine, although we could just do that a bit. There we go. Alright, so let's see how this looks right now. So this here is the walking animation so far. So as you can see, our character's arms are moving forwards and backwards. I feel like the left ones has a bit more motion than the right in terms of going backwards right now. Let me just make sure. Actually, no, they both go back equally, I mean. Yeah, no, I think they're alright. It just looks like the right arm's not going as further back. But yeah, no, so that's alright right now. So that there is our walking animation so far. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the sphere body here. And basically this will start off as rotated a bit more left at first. So I'm just going to rotate it like that. Then I'm going to set the rotation. There we go. Then at the 1 second mark, I'm then going to change this so then it's going a bit more right like this. And there we go. So there we now have our body doing its thing, just rotating. And then lastly, I want the head to do its thing as well. So we're going to make like the head bob kinda. So with the head, I'm going to go to the 1 second mark. Then set the rotation so then it's like sort of going down a bit like that. And there we have it. That there is our walking animation right now. So yeah, I can't think of anything else to update for this walking animation at the moment, so I think I'm just going to leave it the way it is right now. So now we have an idle and a walking animation for our AI. Alright, so now that we've got our basic idle and walk animation done for our enemy, let's actually get them implemented onto our enemy AI now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my enemy scene, and now let's actually add in our enemy AI mesh. So we're going to go instantiate a child scene, monster enemy as it's called in my project. Alright, so here is our enemy model. So now I'm going to scale this down so then it's the proper size of the AI. I'm also going to disable this mesh here as well just so I can properly see. Alright, I think this is now a good size. So now we can just disable this other mesh here as well, and boom. So now our AI model is all prepared. Alright, so to get the animations working on our enemy AI, here's what we're going to do. So we're going to go into our enemy script here. So to start off, what we're going to do is in our ready function, we're going to go indent here. So at the top of the ready function, we're going to go $, monster enemy. So just grab the name of whatever your enemy model is, and then grab its animation player from inside. So you do $, your enemy model's name / animation player. Then we can do .play idle. So we're going to play the idle animation. There we go. Another thing which you want to do as well is you want to actually make it so your idle animation plays when we do the stop enemy function as well. So you want to make sure you do that too. And then in the pick destination function, what we're going to do is we are going to go underneath where it says if not chasing, then we'll just go enter, paste that in, then instead of play idle, we'll do play walk. So then the walk animation plays. Also, you'll want to do the same thing for your chase player function as well. So then when the enemy spots the player, then they can actually start walking and chasing the player. If you want your player's walk animation to be faster when they're chasing the player, so let's say for example you don't really care too much about making a run animation because you find that your walk animation would be fine for a run animation as well, you just need to speed it up. Well, what we can do in that case is if we go to our process function here, if chasing, if we do if, and then we can go grab our monster enemies animation player, if the speed scale of it is less than, let's say for example 2, so that will be like double the original animation player speed, then we can do speed scale equals to 2 for the animation player. And then if not chasing, then speed scale can equal to 1. We'll also change this less than 2 to a not equal to 2 as well. And yeah, so that there is how you can change your animation player's speed scale depending on if the monster is chasing the player or not if you want to. So I can't think of anything else that I may need to do for this tutorial, so what I'm thinking of now is that we go ahead and we test out the monster enemy AI's animations to see how it all works. One thing I noticed is that the AI, it walks a bit fast. In terms of how, because it just makes the animation look slow with how fast the AI walks normally. So I'm going to be turning down the speed of the AI to like 1. Now to chase, that's totally fine. We don't need to change that at all. But yeah, the walking speed of the AI I'm going to turn down a bunch. Also, something else which I decided I'm going to do, because, I was just testing him out before, and something which annoys me is how, like, he just spots me and starts chasing after me, even though I'm just like, yo, I just want to watch you walk around. I don't want you to chase me right now. So that's why I'm just going to disable these chase casts, so then we can actually just watch the AI walk around, so then we don't have to worry about it, chasing us at all. Because, I just want to watch the damn thing walk around. I don't care about, getting chased. Like, it's just annoying. Alright, so here we have the AI. As you can see, he is now patrolling around quite normally. And now he's doing his idle animation, as you can see. He is a bit through the door right now, but oh well. There he is. Look at him go. So now he's just walking around and then he goes idle. And so yeah, the AI is working pretty well right now. Now he's just walking back up the stairs. See, I do feel like a speed of 1 is much better for the AI. I feel like any higher would be, a bit too fast. But yeah. Alright, so anyways guys, that's going to be the end of this video today. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully your enemy AI model is looking all good. Be sure to let me know how you guys went down in the comments below perhaps. And yeah, so I'll be sure to see you all next time. For the ending of this video, I'm just going to be, walking around, watching this dude walk around for a bit to see how his animations are all going. But yeah, so anyways, I'll see you all next time, and bye bye. So yeah, if you're still here right now, we're just currently just watching this dude walk around a bit. Look at him go. But yeah, as you can see, the walking animation's all good. Now he's idle again. And yeah, things are working pretty neat.